So yeah, I want to do a rating on all the expansions. Like I've thought about this for a while now. I've always wanted to do a video like this, and we may actually do more of these going forward. But I thought it'd be kind of fun, just rating the expansion. Now, the only one I found here had all the patches and everything. So maybe that'll be something maybe we do in the future where we like rate like what's the best patch in that regards. But today we're just gonna stick with the expansions, and maybe we'll adapt this how it goes. You know, just let me know if y'all think you guys like this kind of content. I've always thought that this would be thing to do. So with that being said, let's get started. So rating the expansion. I know Shadowbringers technically isn't done yet. We still have another patch coming out in a couple weeks. But I think we have enough of the patch that we can kind of already make an assumption on what we think is the better, what we think is the better expansion. So starting off with the original 1.0, I think this is pretty easy. I don't think I can need to just say anything more on this one. It's a D. It was just so bad. UI was really bad. The overall like leveling experience was terrible. You had experience that you could gain up to a certain point, and then you got like deducted experience, or you couldn't get enough because you were not quote unquote rested. You need to go take basically like a break. It was almost like the way of like delayed how you play the game, like how much you can play. And I think that's because maybe they didn't have enough content, whatever the case may be. Auto attack wasn't even in the game. There was a ton of bugs, so much lag. The engine was terrible. We're just gonna go ahead and say 1.0 was just not good, and that's why we got pretty much a new game when they re-released the next expansion, or well, A Realm Reborn, which is considered an expansion, but in my opinion, it's a brand new game on top of that. So, but yeah, I think 14's 1.0 era, not good at all. So Realm Reborn. Realm Reborn is a really good expansion. We'll call it an expansion, I guess, in this term. I still think it's a brand new game in my opinion, but I'm gonna label it as an expansion because that's how it's quote unquote taken in the actual game. The whole system was completely revamped. Everything was great. They had a lot of new content, a lot of new things added. The UI was different. The system level up was different. There was no like issues with XP. Auto attack was in the game. Like pretty much any issue that they had with 1.0 was fixed and made better. So the other thing that they added in there was like a new engine that superiorly graphically made it look so much better. So now in terms of story, some things that I don't like about the story, like all the fetch quests, it was a lot of fetch quests, and now they have fixed that towards Shadowbringers area where we are at now, but we never actually like did that back then. So when people were playing, and even up through new expansions, those fetch quests were still there, and that actually killed a lot of the player base. Also, I guess I'll have to open the patches after the main patch. People had to do those, and a lot of those again were very tedious and drawn out. So I have to give some criticism there. Obviously, that this is like basically starting from square one. In my opinion, I think a Realm Reborn, I'd say it's probably an average patch. I'd say it's probably an average expansion. I think that's a pretty good place to put it into just being average. So I have nothing else really to add to that, so we'll go to the next one. Heaven's Ward. Actually, before I move on to Heaven's Ward, I just realized I didn't talk about the raid. The raid here was really good. Story-wise, tying in from the first game on everything that was done, like that was really good. I won't change my answer in regards to it being from a B to an A. It's still the same, but I forgot to mention the raid. Really well done in that one. Heaven's Ward. So Heaven's Ward was in my opinion, the legitimate first expansion for the game, and this one had a lot of good thing about this one. Delved straight deep into the fantasy. Fantasy was the key thing on this one. You had your dragons. You had, cities flying, like things flying in the sky. This old like night-like era. It was just just full on 100%. We're going pure fantasy on this one. They added new jobs to the game so they did add the ninja into the in 1.0 or sorry, excuse me, 2.0, but that was just kind of thrown in one of the patches later on down the road. This one they actually made 3 new jobs: Dark Knight, Machinist, and Astrologian. Really good jobs in my opinion. They obviously have still. I won't go too down in deep in regards to how they played back in the day, but they were definitely different than what they play now for sure. Dark Knights had dark arts, and then Machinist had a whole bullet system, so that was completely unique and different. The raid was Alexander, and a really good raid. Really difficult though. It almost killed a lot of the raiding scene. Mr. Happy actually has a really good video on raiding, like how it progressed, and kind of explain this in great detail. So I'd recommend watching that video if you haven't already. He does a great job of explaining how that was back in the day, but it was rough. But it also brought in Alexander Creator, which was probably the baseline tier of raiding that we go on nowadays. When they make new things, they compare it to Creator. So yeah, great raid. Trials are really good too. I don't really think there's anything crazy about the Trials. Thornton was fun. But just normal Trials, just like they did in The Realm Reborn. I'm not gonna delve into specifics there. In my opinion, the story, like I mentioned, dragons. Like, who doesn't like dragons? I'm gonna go ahead and take Heaven's Ward. I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna put it as. Do I think it was an S or do I think it was an A? I think it's an A patch. I think it's an A expansion. I think that's a good place to put it. It's not my favorite. But it was still really good. I'm just gonna leave it at that. we'll just move on to the next one. It's kind of off the cuff. Sorry for being a little scatterbrained. I'm literally just doing this right after my live stream. So I apologize if it just sounds like off the cuff, nothing pre-planned. So anyway, Stormblood. Stormblood is the next expansion. So this actually did some really good things for the game. It brought in 2 new jobs, Red Mage and Samurai. I'm a huge fan of Red Mage. If anybody's seen any of my content, I play that Red Mage most of the time. So it's still to this day pretty much my main. And then Samurai is those 2 were the biggest requested ones. They put them in the game. So I mean, there's obviously gotta be points for that. Story in regards to Stormblood, I personally was not a big fan of the story. Yeah, it was cool going to see Doma, or Doma in regards to the Far East area with Kugane, seeing that eastern-like area. Really cool, visuals are great. They added swimming or oceans, like delving into the oceans. That was really cool. I really did enjoy that. Speaking of Heavens, where they did the flying there too, I forgot to mention that. But anyway, they also added, but in regards to the story, it was too political, in my opinion. Like you got really lost in how much stuff, and you bounced from like the Alamiga area to the Far East area, and then you came back to Alamiga, and it's not that was hard to follow in that regards, but like even after you completed the Stormblood series, it was very just political, trying to figure things out. I thinking about it now, I don't think of anything that I can't think of anything that like reminds me that was like, this was really good. I really like enjoyed the next. Now, in terms of the raid, I really enjoyed the raid. I mean, yeah, it had a lot of callbacks to original ones. The thing that is kind of bummer about those callbacks is that it's all kind of like digitalized. It doesn't mean anything. So our fights against like Kefka, Neo Exdeath, etc., they didn't really like quote unquote happen. So it's kind of like, what's the point? Alphascape really kind of started bringing into the mold of, yeah, this is what we like. It made it a lot better in returns of like the story of the raid. But I mean, but even just like not thinking about the story, just thinking about it as a just standalone raid tier. I think it was really well done. Neo Exdeath to this day is probably one of my favorite fights of all time in regards to a raid. So I really did enjoy the raid. The trials. Most of them were the warlords, basically. They were pretty good. I don't really think of any of them as like, in my opinion, they were definitely better than Heavensward's trials, but I don't think that I don't think that they were like that, like stunning, or anything crazy. I mean, extreme trials aren't really supposed to be that hard or difficult or challenging or anything of that nature. Just somewhere in the middle of the pack, you know, to bridge you into a rating. And I don't really think that there's anything bad about them. I just they're none of them really like memorable to me. The most memorable one is probably Lakshmi, just because of the music. I don't want to talk too much on music because music I can say on any of these, and I put them all put S tier. Like, let's be real. But in regards to just borderline how I thought the expansion played in regards to it, I think it would be a B. I'd put it a B above a Realm Reborn. If we're gonna like utilize all the listings here, I guess I'd probably put this as a C then. But I honestly don't think it was. I don't think C kind of indicates it was bad. I'm gonna leave Realm Reborn where it's at, and I think Stormblood was better. I think the big thing was the story just wasn't as good. And it did introduce UCOB, so that's why I think it's really good. But I'm gonna leave it at B. I'm not gonna go delve into anymore at this point. But I think Stormblood, in my opinion, is a little bit above. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna put it up at there. How about that? I think that's fair. I don't think it was as good as Heavensward, but I think it was definitely a good expansion. It wasn't great because we haven't talked about great yet. Shadowbringers. I mean, this is easy. I'm gonna put it as an S. Like, explain why I think Shadowbringers is the pinnacle of our expansion so far. It brought in a story from Heavensward that was teased, and something that was like speculative, like, hey, this is going on, and we got to actually see that unfold. First of all, that's a huge like payoff in regards to that. Plus, the characters are in, like, Emmett Selk was amazing. What was I can't think of the guy's name anymore, but the Warrior of Light Trial, whoever that was, I'm drawing a blank right now. It's late for me. But his story, like, on how he felt like he had to take on this mantle to save his kind, like, spectacular. Like, I can't tell you how many times where I just felt emotional, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So yeah, so we got the story, huge A+ on that. I enjoyed the story, leveling throughout it, going through everything, amazing. Trials, absolutely phenomenal trials. There's only like maybe like one or two that I'm like a little bit down on, but in my opinion, Warrior of Light's trial is the best trial that they've ever made for this game, in terms of story, music, mechanics, everything, just superb. So trials are a win. Raid was a win. Raid improved on said story, giving more, I'll say, meat to the actual content. So yeah, I mean, basically it's checking off everything. Jobs were more well defined, of course, adding 2 new jobs as well, but jobs were more defined. Like, if you look at Black Mage right now, Black Mage is in a perfect spot, in my opinion. I don't know what they're going to do for Endwalker with Black Mage. I'm afraid, if anything, they may mess it up, but yeah, we'll leave that for now. But all the jobs are in a really good spot, with like a couple changes that need to happen to them in Endwalker, probably to make them even better. But like, jobs are at a good balance. The 24-man was a little sour, in my opinion. And I haven't talked about any of the 24-mans. This is, again, off the cuff of just ending the stream for the night. Actually, still streaming it, technically. But the 24-man, in my opinion, Your Heart, it didn't really sit for me. That's like probably the weakest part of this. So yeah, I think we, in regards to everything Shadowbringers wise, yeah, it did phenomenal. And I can't wait till the next one. So this is my ranking on how I'd rank the expansions. So, let me know what you all think. I'm curious to know what that is. I'm gonna actually take this and put it onto YouTube. So for those watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments below. But anyway, I'm gonna go and finish up my live stream on Twitch. Again, I stream on Twitch for UCOP Prog and a couple other days, just for doing some random casual things and playing some other games. So if y'all want to check it out, take a look at the description below. I have my Twitch link there. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and head off. So for those having a great night, I will see y'all in the next stream. Until then, take care.